Look, stop clinging to those heavy, straight-walled brush guns just because it is what you've always carried down south. Everyone thinks a thumping 450 Bushmaster is the only way to drop a Michigan whitetail in the lower peninsula. And it is costing them massive ethical range across those open bean fields. The state just ripped up the historic rifle line for 2026. So if you want to know exactly which Bottleneck tack drivers are actually worth your hard-earned cash this season, listen up. Kicking off our list at number 7 is the aristocrat of the woods, the Winchester Model 70 Featherweight. This is not your cheap plastic throwaway gun. This is an heirloom. But let's talk about the damage to your wallet. Street price sets you back right around $1,100 to almost $1,400 depending on the wood grade. For that kind of cash, you're getting a 22 to 24-inch featherweight profile barrel chambered in flat shooting rounds that eat open bean fields for breakfast, like the 6.5 Creedmoor or the classic 270 Winchester. Under the hood, the true magic of the Model 70 is the legendary controlled round feed system. Unlike a standard push feed bolt that just shoves the cartridge forward and hopes for the best, this action uses a massive external claw extractor. The second that cartridge strips from the magazine, that claw grabs the rim and physically controls the path of the brass all the way into the chamber. This completely eliminates the chance of a double feed malfunction when you are frantically cycling the gun sideways out of a cramped tree stand. When it is time to send it downrange, the MOA trigger system is highly refined. It snaps like a frozen icicle under absolute zero pressure, dropping the sear cleanly right between 3 and 5 pounds. And because it carries a bit more mass at roughly 6 3/4 to over 7 pounds unloaded, the recoil on those Bottleneck rounds feels like a firm push rather than an angry mule kicking your shoulder. But here is the deal breaker. And I know the traditionalists will hate me for saying this. That gorgeous grade A French walnut stock and polished blued steel is a massive liability in a freezing Michigan sleet storm. You take this thing busting through a thick public land cedar swamp and you are going to scratch the living daylights out of that satin finish. It demands to be babied. And the weather up north does not care about your pretty wood gun. Sound off below if you think dragging a classic woodstock through the freezing rain is actually worth the traditional flex. Stepping up the game to number 6, we have the Savage 110 Storm. This rig is purpose-built for those miserable freezing rain conditions we all know and love during the late season. The damage to your wallet is right around $900 flat. For that entry fee, you get a 22-inch button-rifled stainless steel barrel that absolutely feeds on rounds like the .308 Winchester and 6.5 Creedmoor. Let's talk about why this thing shoots so tight right out of the box. It uses Savage's proprietary floating bolt head design. Instead of being machined as one solid, rigid chunk of steel, the bolt head actually self-adjusts and floats slightly during lockup. This ensures the receiver lugs engage perfectly every single time, giving you incredibly consistent headspace without needing a custom gunsmith to blueprint your action. Moving down to the controls, you get the user adjustable accu-trigger. When you pull through that center release blade, the sear breaks like shattering a thin sheet of ice. Zero slop and zero creep. Now wrap all that matte stainless steel in the AccuFit stock system, which comes with a box full of comb risers and length of pull inserts. You can practically mold this gun to fit perfectly, whether you are wearing a light base layer or a massive late-season parka, because the whole package weighs in at around 7.4 pounds bare. The recoil feels like a dull thud rather than a sharp punch to the shoulder. Look, I know guys swear by it, but here's the deal breaker. The bolt lift on these factory Savages is notoriously heavy and stiff right out of the box. It feels like you are fighting a heavy truck suspension spring just to cock the firing pin on the upstroke, which can seriously slow you down if you need a lightning-fast follow-up shot on a running buck. Now we get serious with number 5, the CVA Cascade XT. Listen, CVA used to just own the muzzle loader market, but they came out swinging in the centerfire game. Expect to drop right around $900 for this setup. It slings heavy hitters downrange like the .300 Winchester Magnum and the 7mm PRC without breaking a sweat. Looking at the business end, it uses a deeply fluted 22 to 24-inch medium contour barrel built by their sister company Bergara. Those deep grooves are not just for looks. Fluting physically removes steel to shave weight while keeping the barrel completely rigid, and it drastically increases the surface area so the steel cools down faster after a rapid string of fire. Weighing in at roughly 7.2 pounds empty, it pushes back like a heavy oak door, but that factory-installed radial muzzle brake tames the Magnum kick down to a polite tap. The premium adjustable trigger is an absolute sleeper. It breaks crisp as a fresh $100 bill, right around 3 pounds. But let's be real, here is the deal breaker. The proprietary flush-fit magazines for this rifle will absolutely drain your wallet. If you drop one in the Michigan snow and lose it, you're looking at paying a massive premium to get a replacement straight from the factory. This rig is incredibly solid for the money, but wait until you see the absolute monster I have locked in at number 1. Pushing deeper into premium territory at number 4 is the Browning X Bolt Speed. The damage to your wallet is heavy here, running right around $1,300 depending on the configuration. For that premium, you're getting an 18 to 22-inch fluted barrel that absolutely eats short-action bottleneck rounds like the .308 Winchester for breakfast. When you press into that DLX feather trigger, it snaps like a dry, uncooked noodle under zero tension, weighing in right around 6 pounds. It shoves your shoulder like an aggressive linebacker, but that factory recoil hog brake keeps the muzzle perfectly flat through the firing sequence. Under the hood, the real tactical advantage is the 60-degree bolt lift instead of a traditional 90-degree throw where your knuckles constantly slam into the ocular bell of your scope. This shortened arc lets you rip the bolt back with massive speed. That gives you lightning-fast follow-up shots when tracking a moving buck through a dense cedar swamp up north. Look, the Ovix Camo and Smoked Bronze Cerakote are completely bomb-proof. But here is the deal breaker. The ergonomics on the comb are completely fixed and rigidly low, straight out of the factory. If you mount a modern optic with a massive 50mm objective lens, you're going to be floating your chin in the air instead of getting a rock-solid cheek weld on that composite stock. Entering the elite tier at number 3, we have the Bergara B14 Hunter. You are looking at spending right around $825 to almost $1,000 for this setup. It absolutely thrives when pushing aerodynamic bottleneck rounds like the 6.5 Creedmoor across those wide-open Michigan bean fields. Let's look at how this machine actually cycles. It utilizes a coned bolt nose paired with a sliding plate extractor. Instead of a flat breech face, just slamming forward and hoping the cartridge aligns. That cone geometry physically guides the brass out of the internal box magazine and funnels it smoothly straight into the chamber. This guarantees flawlessly reliable feeding when you are rushing a critical follow-up shot. When you press the Bergara performance trigger, it snaps like stepping on a dry acorn in the dead of winter, dropping the sear right at 3.5 pounds. Because it carries a heavier mass of over 7 pounds bare, the recoil feels like a steady shove from a heavy bag, keeping you grounded and right on target. The stock is an absolute tank. Built with glass fiber and integral bedding pillars molded straight into the chassis to keep your Zero locked in during extreme Midwestern temperature shifts. Plus, it uses the exact same footprint as the legendary Remington 700, opening up the largest aftermarket of tactical upgrades in the world. Honestly, here is the deal breaker. The traditional hinged floor plate on this model is a massive performance quirk in the field. If your heavy winter gloves accidentally bump that release latch while resting the gun on the hard edge of a hunting blind, it will completely dump all your unspent ammunition straight into the mud right when the buck of a lifetime steps out. Closer to the crown at number 2, we have the Tikka T3X Lite. You are looking at a cash drop right between $769 to roughly $1,100. This finished surgical instrument absolutely spits flat-shooting bottleneck rounds like the 6.5 Creedmoor and 308 Winchester with total consistency. Looking at the receiver, you have a massively upgraded widened angular ejection port. Instead of a narrow top slot that traps thick winter gloves, this open geometry allows you to blindly toss a single cartridge directly onto the feed ramp if your magazine runs empty and you need a fast emergency reload. When you press that single stage adjustable trigger, it breaks like a brittle glass rod under pressure, dropping the sear cleanly between 2 and 4 pounds. Because the whole package weighs in at a Featherweight 6.4 to 6.6 pounds bare, the recoil jolts your shoulder like a pneumatic hammer. So you better pull it tight into the pocket. Listen, the action is glassy smooth, but here is the deal breaker. That factory synthetic stock feels incredibly cheap and hollow right out of the box. If a stray dead branch scrapes against the side of the forend while you're hiking out to your blind in the dark, it echoes like an empty plastic drum and warns every whitetail in the zip code. Taking the throne at number 1 is the Ruger American Generation 2. The hit to your bank account is an incredibly low $730. It completely dominates by giving you the rugged weather immunity of number 6, but paired with a lightning-fast bolt throw that puts number 4 to shame. It eats flat-shooting bottleneck rounds like the 6.5 Creedmoor for breakfast, sending highly aerodynamic projectiles straight through heavy crosswinds. Let's crack open why this rig shoots way above its weight class. It runs a cold hammer-forged barrel with deep spiral fluting. That specific forging process physically aligns the steel grain structure around the bore, which drastically increases barrel life and keeps your groups incredibly tight, even as the barrel heats up during a string of fire. The barrel terminates in a factory-threaded muzzle capped with a highly aggressive radial brake straight out of the box. Looking at the controls, the Ruger Marksman adjustable trigger system is a total sleeper. It snaps like biting into a frozen carrot, dropping the sear with zero hesitation right between 3 and 5 pounds. Because the entire package weighs in at exactly 6.5 pounds unloaded, the kick punches like a blunt heavy mallet. But that massive factory brake bleeds off the gas and keeps the crosshairs glued to the target. Wrapped in a gunmetal gray Cerakote finish and dropped into a splatter-finished polymer stock with modular comb risers. It is completely weatherproof. This rifle simply gives you the best balance of custom-grade features and raw durability on the market today. It takes the ultimate crown because it delivers elite custom-tier precision without requiring you to remortgage your house just to hunt the Michigan backwoods. Look, the days of being restricted to short-range brush guns in southern Michigan are completely over. The law changed and the playing field is wide open, but grabbing a high-velocity precision rifle does not automatically make you a better hunter. You still have to put in the reps behind the trigger. You have to master your breathing under stress and understand the raw ballistics of your chosen round before you step foot in the woods. Do not just buy the gear and let it sit in the safe until opening morning. Get out there and put the work in. If you want the raw truth without the fluff, lock it in right here.